I now call to speak John Goldsmith, who is our prospective parliamentary candidate for the constituency of Devizes in Wiltshire.
I would like to add, Lord McAlpine, that although my name is Goldsmith, I am sadly no relation. Now, I happen to be in favour of further European integration, and therefore in favour of closer links with Europe, but not one constructed behind closed doors without the views of us, the people, being taken into account at all. Obviously, Boris Johnson, the Conservative candidate and journalist at the Daily Telegraph, got the wrong Goldsmith when he made the laughable statement that my namesake Sir James was the Federalist. We need to have a referendum on Europe because I believe a decision of this magnitude cannot possibly be taken without consulting the people of this country. Future generations will have to live, for better or for worse, with the changes that we are making on their behalf now. That is why I support the referendum party. Indeed, in a small way, my own family illustrates the whole problem quite clearly. My wife, Gillian, who is also a prospective parliamentary candidate for the referendum party, is totally opposed to the idea of closer links with Europe. Therefore, as you can see, it is indeed wholly compatible to be both for and against further European integration, and simultaneously to be united on the need for the people of this country to have their say. Thank you very much. I now have great pleasure in introducing John Aspinall to you. His work is known throughout the world because he has devoted his life to fighting for the survival of endangered species of animals. He founded 2 game reserves, Howletts and Port Lympne, one of which is near Canterbury and the other near Folkestone. His purpose has never been to use animals to entertain people, but to breed those species that are in danger to introduce into their natural habitat in the world. There's always a large protective area in the jungle of the Congo in which the gorillas he has bred are returned back to nature. He is a man of deep passion with a broad philosophical outlook. He will be fighting the constituency of Folkestone and Hythe. Ladies and gentlemen, John Aspinall.
Ladies and gentlemen, running so far behind time that I've been asked to throw away half my speech. But in fact, you just heard that about endangered species. I speak to you unabashedly as one of the most endangered species of all today, an Englishman. To hear a great voice today, Scottish and Alistair McAlpine, now unashamedly you're going to hear the voice of an Englishman. Having thrown away the first 4 pages of my speech and special request, I'm starting at a slightly disjointed point. But everyone here, everyone in this room is of a special type. But there are those who say that the spirit of the age is against us, that this spirit is a sphinx that will devour those who don't fall under its spell. They mean, of course, those who cannot willingly succumb to the new waves of political correctness that daily pound on our shores from America. The spirit of the age, they tell us, incessantly is the blurring and abandonment of all the differences that ancient nations. Their ideal world would be uniracial, unilingual, unicultural, and I suppose androgynous. You start by creating a massive, contiguous political conglomerate where you hope everyone will interbreed with everyone else and thus help to form a raceless continental superstate with a shared culture, language, and color. Many believe this Clinton-esque dream is well on its way to fruition in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, NAFTA being a step towards this goal. The United States of Europe, they hope, and they earnestly believe, will soon follow, and that the deep, ingrained, and cherished differences between its peoples, sculpted by centuries of separate experience, will melt into a central pool of white-hot bureaucratic power based in Brussels. 25 states will thereafter live in peace. No doubt, these politically correct globalists will then expect East Asia to follow the example of Europe and America and combine in a huge pan-Mongolid Massif Oriental. Japan and China would sink their age-old differences and unite, and by so doing, provincialize all the other ancient Asian states, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia, etc. This vision, which haunts the imagination of a horde of demented dreamers, will never be realized, you'll all be relieved to hear, because it will collide with a far more powerful demon or set of demons, D-A-E-M-O-N, the genius loci, the special spirit that attaches to a place or to a people. An attendant spirit, of the English. This demon is the spirit of freedom and independence, the very numen of the English people. It connects with the spirit, instinct, and identity of a people, what makes them different from other peoples. The genius of a nation is of itself, sui generis, whether English, French, or German, it makes no difference. It is linear in descent, the construct and the gift of one's ancestors, and the rightful inheritance of one's descendants. If we default on our forebears, millions of whom died that we today should remain free, we will defraud our own descendants of what is their patrimony. In this generation, the baton will not just fall from our grip and be lost. It will be taken by sleight of hand and secreted into Europe by our leaders, only to be recovered, if at all, at some later stage, by force, social explosion, or a series of social explosions that could wreck the whole continent. Now, I cannot emphasize enough, if we renege on our past, we abjure the future. If we renege on our ancestors now, we will abandon future generations to servitude. At best, to constantly recurring civil wars, each one detonating another throughout the next century. We offer our friendship to the European nations, particularly to Germany, on a platter. We've quarreled with Germany, distant cousins of ours, the Germans, twice this century. We offer them our friendship, but not our freedom. It is negotiable. We offer them cooperation, where all parties or both parties can benefit. Cooperation, yes, but co-option, no. No. In referendal terms, many millions of times no. And the European nations have been conquered and reconquered many times in the last 1,000 years. Paris has fallen twice to German armies in the last 125 years, twice within a period of 75 years. Germany itself was defeated, humiliated, and occupied twice in the last 200 years. As for Italy, one tends to lose count of the number of times. It has suffered dismemberment. Goths, Lombards, Saracens, Normans, French, Austrians, Irish, and Germans, to name but a few, have helped themselves to portions of the Italian peninsula at a time. We, on the other hand, have been unconquered for 930 years. Everyone from every party and from every direction is quoting Churchill. But I do recollect that he wrote in his History of the English-Speaking Peoples that it took 800 years to meld the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, Danes, and Normans into a true nation. One must remember that all these 5 great tribes shared a mutual religious, racial, cultural, and linguistic origin. If it took so long to forge the modern English nation from 5 closely related peoples, how many thousands of years would it take to evolve a cohesive continental superstate? We should say to Brussels, come back in 1,000 years and we'll discuss the matter again. Each week when I visit my wild animal park, Port Lympne in East Kent, I can see the Grand Military Canal, which was built to convey the heavy ordnance to the Kentish coasts and to the 5 ports, to protect them against the expected invasion of Napoleon's invincible Grande Armée. Visible from the park is also one of the many Martello towers erected for the same purpose. How many English soldiers and sailors died fighting the Corsican, who had his own ideas of a united Europe? Can we assume that they died for nothing? Did they die to no purpose? Port Lympne is pockmarked by bomb craters made by the Luftwaffe, and the gun emplacements made by the English protect the same stretch of coast from the German invasion in the last war. In this century, 1 million Englishmen have given up their lives so that we should remain free from a German-dominated Europe. A few weeks ago, I passed a graveyard near Le Touquet in northern France. Thousands of unmarked, well-kept graves. They were the graves of Canadians. These nameless soldiers died. These nameless soldiers died that these islands should remain free. Canada was too far away. It was under no threat from the Germans. How many Anzacs are buried in Gallipoli 29 years before that in 1915? Did they die to save Australia and New Zealand from the German Empire? Of course not. Like Canada, Australia and New Zealand were too far away to feel any threat. They gave their lives, in their thousands, with the utmost valor to ensure for posterity that we, in these islands, should remain free. Now I'm warming up to my theme. The elites of all 3 parties, sodden with pessimism, believe that the English can never be roused again. They calculate that we have retained the lethargy and inertia of an ex-warrior nation, but have lost the galvanic powers of arousal that we used to possess. There is no more dangerous myth than this. The nation may be half asleep, but it's not half dead. those who underestimate us now, both sides of the chart, a sad come. The old tribesman, where am I? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I've never read a speech in my life. I'm used to speaking. Yes, the old tribesman. And this was my best bit too. The old tribesmen, the serried ranks of the massed levies will emerge from every party, from every city, and from every county, untouched by middle-class guilt, uncorrected politically, unimpressed by national decline, suspicious of reckless social change, denied any opportunity whatsoever to fixate their famous capacity for loyalty on any worthwhile cause. They extended stint and without restraint their football games. While these surrogate passions can still rage within them, there is hope for the nation yet. The nation of which they are the bedrock, as they have always been. If those who follow, cheer, and even fight for Manchester United can be given the opportunity to harness this energy, vitality, and enthusiasm for a more worthwhile and rewarding enterprise, they could lift the nation from the lower rungs of power to which our leaders have allowed it to sink and make us great again. And as I see it, the task of all you assembled here is to go among your countrymen, make them aware of a fate so skillfully lined up for them, for their own good, of course. Many of the people are aware of the damage that's already been done and the danger that the future holds. Great tranches of parliamentary power have already been sequestered from us without knowledge and understanding by a clandestine process of prevarication, dissemblement, and dissimulation, the tools of fraudsters throughout the ages. We, the people, and that includes me and most people in this hall, have been gulled through the natural but misplaced trust we have put in the integrity of our leaders. Heath, Howe, Hurd. The three wise men have much to answer for. Their irritating condescension of manner masks an inner emptiness and a growing love for this, not just in themselves, which is understandable, but in the nation, which is unforgivable. They have decided that we, as a country, no longer have the spirit, the will, or the ability to handle our own affairs. They will sigh with relief at the passing of 90% of our powers from Westminster to Brussels, after a century of social and political decline. Having won 2 wars and lost 2 peaces, better by far, they argue, to smuggle the old, tired, worn-out nation into Europe and shelter behind the German economy. The last thing they want to do is to ask the people for their opinion on that. They consider the question far too important for that. They remind one of Arthur Balfour, who, when asked by a colleague what the people would think of his policy on tariff reform, the great issue of his day, answered, he would rather consult his valet. You probably don't need reminding that Balfour presided over the greatest conservative electoral crash in 1906. The word traitor has been thrown about and bandied about freely to discourage Conservative and Labour defectors, the word they use, defectors, to the referendum party. This is a misuse of the language. Only a referendum on the revision of the Maastricht Treaty can give the Conservative and Labour Party a true extension of political life. As it stands today, a Conservative or a Labour government will respectively fudge its way or push it into a complete nation, or if you prefer the word surrender, of parliamentary power. The next elected government will be little more than a provincial assembly. The next election will be a glorified local election. It will have no more effect on the exercise of real power than a by-election. At least a by-election enables party loyalists to defect without any serious consequences to their government. Anyone who votes for the referendum party bolsters the chances of his or her own traditional party attaining real power when and if its time comes. The stage is set for massive temporary desertions from traditional allegiances. From left or centre. Now, what is the use of a party worth if it's at the expense of the freedom of a nation? Rapturous applause and foot-stamping ovations reflect merely a temporary banishment of the fear of the loss of power. Frantic emotional enthusiasm momentarily dims the spectre of 5 years in opposition, and the consequent shuttle of 100 ministries with what power and prestige that is left to them to the other side. The instant manufacture of a false unity at party conferences will not dupe the electorate. It will not even hoodwink Conservative or Labour supporters, who are in increasing numbers, coming to realize there is a larger issue at stake than another 5 years of office without power, larger than mere allegiance to a particular party. Few of us enjoy being described as traitors of any sort to the party of ours, but fewer still like being described as traitors to the country that gave us birth. And in that category, very few of us would fall this morning in this conference hall. I urge the conference, as I urge the nation, to vote bravely, not for Little England or Middle England, but for a free England. Our eyes look to the future, our hands are in the present, but our feet rest in the past. If we lose that foothold, we will fall to our knees and grope around, bleating for protection from anyone prepared to offer it. This or that side of the Atlantic. Power and the pride that goes with power must be repatriated to its source, the Parliament of England. The England of old, the England of today, and the England of tomorrow. You vote not just for yourself and your family, but most of all for the generations as yet unborn, to give them the chance to protect, unsullied, the Newman, the genius, and above all else, the honor of the nation.